Alabama has a nuclear warhead in Jalen Milroe. Bryce Young is leaving for the NFL, and replacing him will likely be Jalen Milroe or Ty Simpson. I tend to lead toward the former, and in fact, I think Jalen Milroe's phenomenal athleticism will lead him to become a Lamar Jackson-esque QB in the 2023 college football season. Jalen Milroe is 6'2", 212 pounds. Lamar Jackson is also 6'2", 212 pounds, but those similarities are just height and weight. A quarterback that's 6'2", 212 pounds could be a pocket passer or a dual threat quarterback like Lamar Jackson. It depends on their 40 time, their build, their statistics and in-game experience, and we're going to get to that. But the similarities start there, and it only gets scarier from there on out. Jalen Milroe started in one game for Alabama this season when Bryce Young was injured. It was against Texas A&M. He went 12 of 19 for 111 yards, completed 63.2% of his passes. He threw for 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was sacked 4 times by an Aggie defense that was very underrated and had to deal with a porous Jimbo Fisher-led offense. At the end of that game, Milroe had a 153.8 passer rating, a 60.8 QBR, which is average/above average. He had 17 rushing attempts for 81 yards, averaging 4.8 yards per carry, and he had a long of 33 on that day. He played significant time against Arkansas after Bryce Young went down with a serious head injury. He also got playing time against Vanderbilt, University of Louisiana Monroe, Utah State, Mississippi State, Austin Peay, and he had 1 pass attempt against Kansas State. In the 2022 college football season, Milroe completed 31 passes out of 53 attempts. He threw for 297 yards. He completed 58.5% of his passes overall. He had 5 passing touchdowns, 3 passing interceptions, a long pass of 35. He was sacked 4 times. He had a 125.4 passer rating, but an 82 QBR. An 82 QBR overall is an elite level of QBR. A 125.4 passer rating, on the other hand, is average, if not below average. And obviously these numbers they don't tell the whole story, because when you're being spoon-fed throws and when you're a backup, it's totally different than when you're on the big stage. In Jalen Milroe's game against Texas A&M, let's just say it, even I, who am not an expert in Alabama football, I know a lot about the Big Ten, and I'm trying this 2023 preseason to still focus on the Big Ten, but branch out, learn more about other conferences and players. Jalen Milroe's game against Texas A&M was disappointing. It was disappointing, and as Josh Pate said when he was talking about some questions about Alabama football, most notably the quarterback battle for the spring, he mentioned how Alabama's staff was surprised that it seemed like Jalen Milroe starting was a, quote, too big of moment for him. Against Arkansas, when he had to come in after Bryce Young was injured, he went 4 of 9 for 65 yards and a touchdown. 141 passer rating, didn't complete 50% of his passes, but he had a passing touchdown. He had a okay/good game against Arkansas when it came to passing the football. His main strength was in his run game. 6 rushing attempts for 91 rushing yards, 15.2 yards per carry, 1 rushing touchdown. Again, a long of 77. That long of 77 was on a 3rd and 15 when Arkansas was down by 5 off of a muffed, I think it was a muffed punt, or it was a dropped punt. The snap was bad. The punter couldn't maintain it, and Arkansas, 1st and goal, they punched it in. All the momentum, a game where Alabama dominated. Arkansas shouldn't have even been in that game at that point. 3rd and 15, you give the ball back to the Hogs. They have a chance to lead. 3rd and 15, Milroe said, nope. Took the ball, and with amazing speed, juke moves, athleticism, acceleration, moved Alabama down the field to get in position to score and take the game totally out of Arkansas's hands. After that play, Alabama once again dominated for the rest of the game. Phenomenal athleticism, though I do want to draw back on the Lamar Jackson comparisons, not draw back as in retract it, is probably the wrong saying, but bring up some more comparisons, shall we? So Jalen Milroe came out of high school, 6'3", 206 pounds. Lamar Jackson out of high school was 6'3", 185 pounds. Lamar Jackson was rated as a 92 star by 24/7 Sports. Milroe was a 94. So Milroe out of high school was widely viewed as the better prospect. Jalen Milroe out of high school had a 4.64 40-yard dash and a 4.38 shuttle time. Lamar Jackson had a 4.79 40 and a 4.82 shuttle time. Lamar Jackson at Louisville throughout his 3 seasons as the Cardinals quarterback, he had above 900 rushing yards all seasons where he played at quarterback. 2015, 16, 17, he had 1,800 passing yards or more every season. And if you take out his first season in 2015, he had 3,500 passing yards in both 16 and 17, if not a few hundred more, depending on the season. And then in 2016 and 17, he had 1,500 rushing yards or more, and at minimum had 18 rushing touchdowns. He had 18 in 2017, 21 rushing touchdowns in 2016. And each year at quarterback, his long rush was over 70 yards, and his long pass for all 3 years, at minimum, was 50 yards or above. So, explosive playmaker Lamar Jackson was at Louisville. He carried Bobby Petrino at Louisville, going 9-4, then 8-5, in 16 and 17, and in 2018 it all fell apart, and Bobby Petrino's fired. And now he's at Texas A&M, where I just don't think he'll do much of anything, and I'm very thankful for that, because we all know the kind of person Bobby Petrino is. But let's not talk about that. Let's talk about the football aspect and getting back to Jalen Milroe. I think he is going to be special. Now, I don't think that Alabama as a whole, they're 125th in returning production, and I know they have a good recruiting class, but they haven't used the transfer portal too much this season. Maybe Saban doesn't think they need to, and, well, he's the greatest of all time, so I'm not going to question his judgment. But Alabama's offensive line hasn't been up to par the past 2 seasons. Their wide receiver core was porous last season. The amount of defensive talent they had in 2022, and the fact that that defense, when it faced a competent passing attack, was just torn up, aka Tennessee, is laughable as well. They lose all of that talent. This coming Alabama roster, I think, from combining raw star talent and combining starting experience, repetitions, like freshman, sophomore, junior, how much of a green player or how much of a veteran player you are, this might be the worst Alabama roster that we have seen in a while in the Nick Saban era. But I think Jalen Milroe has the potential to be possibly the most dynamic quarterback as an overall athlete. From a passing standpoint, I don't think so, but as an overall athlete, I think he'll be the most dynamic quarterback for Nick Saban in his entire time at Alabama. That includes comparing him to Bryce Young. That includes comparing him to Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, that'd be the obvious, comparison and competition for Jalen Milroe if you're to look at how much of an athlete will Jalen Milroe be in comparison to other Alabama quarterbacks. He's the closest thing to Jalen Hurts, looking at things from an Alabama perspective. And if you look at things from a national perspective and from recent memory of college football, he's the same height and the same weight as Lamar Jackson. He ran a faster 40 and faster shuttle time out of high school. He has nearly a 35-inch vertical jump. And those things, by the way, those verified results were taken in 2019 for Jalen Milroe. It is 4 years later since those things were analyzed. He's faster. He is stronger. He weighed 184 pounds in 2019. I don't even weigh 180. And currently he weighs 212. He is a beast. He is fast when given the right circumstances, and not only that, but given a whole preseason where he will be taking starting reps or competing for starting reps, his passing game will only get better. Tommy Rees, I was confused by the hire initially, but the more research you do, and the more research I did, and looking at things from a perspective and hearing other sports analysts talk, the hire isn't as bad, nor should it have gotten the hate that the initial reaction from myself or from many others produced. The initial reaction, it most likely is going to be different from a reaction when you have some additional perspective and when things have calmed down. And what Tommy Rees is going to do with Alabama is, I think, bring them back to more of that. It's like what Greg McElroy said, former Alabama QB. Going to bring them back to more of a run game, more of a power element, more of a pro-style element to Alabama. And I think with Jalen Milroe's, scrambling capabilities, the fact that you could easily make designed runs for him and he would execute them with perfection. I mean, 6'2", 212 pounds, that's kind of a running back build when you look at it. 6'2", 212 pounds, maybe a few inches or an inch or so taller than what a preferred running back height would be. But he can run, he can pass, and if you give him a great offensive line, and not only that, but with Roydell Williams and Chase McClellan, you have other threats. He's not the only running threat for this offense. So I think this offense could be designed to bring out those best characteristics in Jalen Milroe. He again had an 82 overall QBR, very small sampling size, but he's an overall efficient quarterback, makes good decisions. The Texas A&M game, from what the Alabama staff says, from what his recruiting profile says, from what everything says, that game was somewhat of a fluke. And Texas A&M's defense is one of the better defenses in the SEC. They had a rough time defending the run at times, but DJ Durkin's a brilliant defensive coordinator. Sort of like Bobby Petrino. We're not going to talk about the off the field things, but brilliant defensive coordinator. A&M defensive line has recruited it tremendously. They also have good secondary players, good linebackers, and they return a lot of that this coming season. Unlike Alabama, Texas A&M's very high in returning production. But I think Jalen Milroe is going to be the next Lamar Jackson. I think he will be the closest comparison to Lamar Jackson that we have seen. And that's one of my bold predictions for the 2023 season, is that Jalen Milroe will be an elite quarterback. Alabama, I don't think, if you've watched my channel, I don't think that Alabama is going to make the playoff, at least right now. That could be subject to change. And I currently don't think they're a top 4 team. But Jalen Milroe is an elite quarterback. And when you have an elite quarterback, your ceiling for what you want to achieve, and add on top of that Nick Saban, we've seen seasons where they return next to nothing from a production standpoint, and they go out and they win it all, or they compete for it all. Alabama totally has the firepower, the head coach, I think, offensive coordinator. I'd say even defensive coordinator, because Kevin Steele is really going to be trying to call the game of football on defense that Saban wants him to call. That's how it works at Georgia and Alabama. The defensive coordinator is just taking on what the head coach wants for defense, but they have the staff, the head coach, and they may not have the wide receivers. They may not have all the offensive linemen or all the secondary players or all of that. They may be lacking in certain positions compared to what the ideal would be, but they are not lacking at quarterback. You have Ty Simpson, a 5-star out of high school. Jalen Milroe was a highly rated 4-star out of high school. And you have, again, I think a guy who has the athleticism of Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts at quarterback. And I think that's going to work very well with the style of offense that Tommy Rees wants to bring to Alabama. So I think Jalen Milroe is the best quarterback, and I think he will be the best quarterback in the SEC in 2023. Might even go to New York as a Heisman finalist. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, click the notification bell, and comment your thoughts down below. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you later.